Most men think women fall in love because of looks, money, confidence, or timing. That's not what actually makes a woman fall. There is one simple thing that creates real attachment. It's not flashy. It doesn't look impressive from the outside, and that's exactly why it's rare. Most men never do it, not because it's hard, but because it requires emotional control most men don't have. When a woman feels this one thing from a man, attraction stops being unstable. It stops coming and going. It settles. And when attraction settles, attachment begins. Stay with me till the end, because this one behavior explains why some men become unforgettable without trying, while others do everything right and still get replaced. Subscribe and comment ready, because what comes next shows how this works in real situations most men misunderstand. Why this one thing matters so much. Women don't fall for effort. They fall for emotional consistency, not excitement, not intensity, not constant attention, consistency. The female nervous system looks for stability before it allows deep attachment. If a man's emotional state rises and falls based on her behavior, attraction feels unsafe. That's why so many connections start strong, then slowly fade. Not because something went wrong, but because emotional steadiness was missing. What most men do instead. Most men confuse consistency with availability. They think, replying fast shows interest, always being present shows care, constant reassurance builds security. But emotional consistency is not about frequency. It's about predictability of emotional tone. If your mood changes based on her texts, if your energy shifts when she pulls back, if your confidence drops when she becomes uncertain, she feels that immediately, and attraction weakens. The one thing women respond to. The one thing women fall for is this: a man whose emotional state stays steady regardless of outcomes. Not cold, not detached, not indifferent, steady. He enjoys connection, but he doesn't depend on it. He values her, but he doesn't lose himself in her reactions. That steadiness creates safety and desire at the same time. Why this feels so rare to women. Most men react emotionally. They don't notice it, but women do. They react to changes in attention, mixed signals, emotional distance. Their behavior shifts without them realizing it. Women are used to managing men's emotions, so when they meet a man who manages himself, it stands out immediately, not loudly, quietly. Notice something important here. This is not about ignoring women. It's not about acting unavailable. It's not about pretending not to care. It's about caring without losing balance. Most men either overinvest or emotionally disappear. Very few stay centered. That's why this is rare. How women test for this without saying it. Women don't ask, "Are you emotionally consistent?" They observe. They notice how you respond to delays. They notice how you handle uncertainty. They notice whether your tone changes when things aren't clear. These moments aren't tests you pass with words. They're tests you pass by staying the same man. Why this creates deep attraction. Attraction grows when a woman feels relaxed and intrigued. Emotional steadiness does both. She doesn't feel pressure. She doesn't feel responsible for your emotions. And because she's not managing you, she starts leaning in naturally, not because you pulled her, but because nothing pushed her away. The mistake men make when they hear this. Many men misunderstand this and try to become distant. They pull back too far. They stop engaging. They reduce warmth. That's not steadiness. That's avoidance. Women don't fall for emotional absence. They fall for emotional self-control. There's a difference. What this looks like in real life. You stay calm when responses slow down. You don't rush to fix uncertainty. You don't change your behavior to regain attention. Your interest stays present. Your life keeps moving. Your emotional tone stays level. That combination feels rare, because it is. Why simple doesn't mean easy. This is simple to understand, but difficult to live, because it requires you to regulate yourself, not control her, not predict outcomes, not force clarity, just stay grounded. Most men can't do that consistently. That's why women fall hardest for the ones who can. Now comes the deeper layer, because knowing what the one thing is not enough. Next, we'll break down why this works psychologically, what you should do right now to develop it, and the exact mistakes that undo everything once attraction starts forming. This is where most men lose it, even after they've done everything right. That's what we break down next. Emotional distance. Their behavior shifts without them realizing it. Women are used to managing men's emotions, so when they meet a man who manages himself, it stands out immediately, not loudly, quietly. Why most men can't maintain this one thing. Understanding emotional steadiness is easy. Living it is where most men fail, not because they don't care, but because they let emotions pull them off center without noticing. The moment uncertainty appears, something shifts inside them. They start monitoring responses, they start reading between lines, they start adjusting themselves to get a reaction. That internal shift is what women feel, and once it's felt, attraction becomes unstable. How emotional steadiness gets broken. Emotional steadiness doesn't break loudly. It erodes quietly. It breaks when your mood depends on her replies, your confidence rises and falls with attention, your behavior changes to protect outcomes. You may still look calm on the surface, but emotionally, you're leaning. And leaning is what removes attraction. Women don't need perfection. They need predictability of energy. The invisible pressure women feel. When a man's emotional state depends on her reactions, a woman feels pressure, not verbal pressure, emotional pressure. She senses that her behavior controls your mood, and that makes connection feel heavy. This is why women pull back even when men are doing everything right. The issue isn't effort, it's emotional dependency. What emotional steadiness actually looks like. Emotional steadiness isn't silence, it isn't distance. It's staying the same man regardless of what's happening. Your tone doesn't change when she's warm, your tone doesn't change when she's uncertain. Your interest remains, your pace remains, your self-direction remains. That consistency creates trust without needing reassurance. Why women notice this immediately. Women are highly sensitive to emotional shifts. They notice subtle changes in tone, small changes in timing, shifts in presence. Not because they analyze, but because they feel it. When a man stays steady, it feels rare. When he doesn't, it feels familiar. Familiar doesn't create desire. Stability does. The role of uncertainty in attraction. Uncertainty is not the enemy. Emotional instability is. A man who remains grounded in uncertainty signals strength. A man who reacts to uncertainty signals risk. That's why emotional steadiness is attractive. It doesn't remove uncertainty, it makes uncertainty safe. Why over-control backfires. Some men hear this and try to control themselves too much. They suppress emotion. They hide reactions. They become stiff. That's not steadiness. That's tension. Women feel the difference instantly. Steadiness is relaxed. Control is rigid. One invites closeness. The other creates distance. How this one thing builds polarity. Polarity isn't about dominance. It's about contrast. When you manage yourself, she doesn't have to manage you. That frees her to be emotional, expressive, open. She leans into her feminine energy because you're stable in yours. That's how polarity forms naturally. Why most men lose this over time. Even men who start steady often lose it later. They grow attached. They become outcome-focused. They start protecting the connection, and protection turns into fear. Fear shows up as reassurance-seeking, emotional monitoring, subtle control. That's when attraction weakens again. What you should be watching in yourself. Instead of watching her behavior, watch yours. Ask yourself, did my tone change today? Did I act to get a response? Did I rush to remove uncertainty? These questions tell you everything. Emotional steadiness is an inside job. The quiet effect this has on women. When you maintain this consistently, something changes over time. She relaxes more. She opens sooner. She feels safe being emotional around you, not because you tried, but because nothing felt risky. This is how attraction deepens without effort. Why this one thing feels so powerful. It's powerful because it's rare. Most men are either reactive or detached. Very few are centered. Centered men don't chase. They don't withdraw. They remain. And women remember how that feels. Now we move into the most important layer, because emotional steadiness alone isn't enough. There are moments where even steady men break this rule without realizing it. Moments that undo attraction right when it starts to settle. Understanding those mistakes and how to avoid them is what turns this one thing into a lasting advantage. That's what we break down next. The moment emotional steadiness gets tested. This is where most men lose what they've built. Not at the beginning. Not when attraction first appears, but later. When emotions deepen. As connection grows, pressure increases, expectations rise, attachment starts forming, and emotional steadiness is tested harder than before. Why attraction shifts when things feel secure? When a woman begins to feel attached, the dynamic changes. She feels closer, more open, more invested. At the same time, the risk feels higher, and this is where many men subtly change. They become more careful, more focused on outcomes, more emotionally alert. Not obviously, internally. That internal shift is what breaks steadiness. The subtle way men start leaning. Leaning doesn't look dramatic. It looks like checking messages too often. It looks like adjusting plans to stay aligned. It looks like reading tone instead of staying present. None of this looks wrong, but emotionally, it signals something important. Your center has moved, and when your center moves toward her, attraction moves away. Why women feel this before men do? Men notice behavior. Women feel energy. She senses when you're less grounded, when you're more invested than before, when your mood quietly depends on her reactions. She may not articulate it, but she feels it, and that feeling changes how safe attraction feels. The difference between interest and dependence. Interest is steady, dependence fluctuates. Interest stays calm whether she's present or distant. Dependence rises with closeness and falls with space. Women respond to interest. They pull away from dependence. This is why men who care more often lose attraction. It's not caring that's the issue. It's losing self-containment. How emotional steadiness should evolve. Emotional steadiness doesn't stay static. It deepens. Early on, steadiness looks like calm presence. Later, it looks like emotional leadership. You don't withdraw when things get intense. You don't cling when emotions rise. You remain grounded even when stakes feel higher. That evolution is what keeps attraction stable. Why comfort alone is not enough. Comfort is important, but comfort without polarity feels flat. When emotional steadiness turns into predictability, attraction fades. This is where many men misunderstand. They think staying the same means doing the same. It doesn't. It means staying grounded while allowing emotional depth. That balance is rare. The line between stability and stagnation. Stability feels safe. Stagnation feels dull. The difference is presence. A steady man stays emotionally engaged without becoming reactive. A stagnant man disengages to protect himself. Women feel the difference instantly. One invites connection, the other drains it. Why men overshoot at this stage? Men often overshoot when things feel good. They increase effort, increase availability, increase emotional exposure. They believe more will secure the bond. But attraction doesn't need more. It needs balance. Overshooting collapses polarity. What holding your center really requires. Holding your center at this stage means you don't abandon your rhythm. You don't over-monitor her emotions. You don't change who you are to preserve connection. You allow closeness without clinging to it. That takes discipline. And discipline is attractive. The quiet signal women look for here. At this stage, she's asking one question silently. Can he stay himself even when things get emotional? If the answer is yes, attachment settles. If the answer is no, attraction destabilizes. She doesn't announce this decision. She adjusts. Why most men never notice the shift? Men look for obvious signs. Arguments, distance, cold behavior. But attraction usually fades without drama. It fades through subtle emotional imbalance. By the time men notice, the dynamic has already changed. The importance of self-regulation. Self-regulation is the core skill here. Not suppression, not detachment. Regulation. You feel emotions without acting from them. You notice desire without chasing it. That ability creates calm intensity, and calm intensity is magnetic. Now we reach the final layer, because even men who understand steadiness, even men who practice it, still make predictable mistakes at the end. Mistakes that undo everything quietly. Understanding the psychology behind this, knowing what to do in real time, and resolving the dynamic correctly. That's what separates short-term attraction from lasting attachment. That's what we break down next. The psychology behind this one thing. The reason this one behavior works is simple. Women attach to men who feel emotionally safe without feeling emotionally dependent. Her nervous system is always scanning for balance. Too much intensity feels overwhelming. Too much distance feels disconnecting. But emotional steadiness sits in the middle. When a man stays centered, her body relaxes. When his reactions don't swing with uncertainty, she feels grounded around him. That feeling is rare, and rarity creates attachment. This is not about impressing her, it's about regulating yourself. A woman doesn't fall for effort, she falls for the man who doesn't need effort to stay stable. That stability tells her something deep. This man can hold space for emotion without losing himself, and that's the foundation of lasting attraction. What you do right now, if you want to embody this one thing, start with awareness. Notice your internal shifts, not her behavior. When she's warm, stay calm. When she's distant, stay calm. When things feel unclear, stay calm. That doesn't mean you become passive. It means you don't react impulsively. You speak when it's natural. You pause when it's appropriate. You don't rush clarity. You keep your routine intact. Your life keeps moving. Your emotional tone stays level. When connection deepens, you don't tighten. When uncertainty appears, you don't chase. You let attraction reveal itself. This isn't about controlling outcomes, it's about controlling your center. The most common mistakes men make. The first mistake is overcorrecting. Men hear this advice and try to become less emotional by becoming distant. They reduce warmth, they pull back too far. That's not steadiness, that's avoidance. The second mistake is performing confidence. They try to act unaffected, they hide emotion instead of regulating it. Women feel the tension underneath, and tension breaks trust. The third mistake is relaxing too soon. When attraction starts settling, men stop leading emotionally. They become lazy with presence. Consistency disappears. Attraction follows. The fourth mistake is making her the emotional focus. Men start tracking her moods, her signals, her reactions. Their center shifts outward, and when your center moves towards her, attraction moves away. Why these mistakes feel invisible? These mistakes don't feel dramatic. They feel reasonable. They feel subtle. They feel harmless. That's why men repeat them. Attraction doesn't die from one big error. It fades from small imbalances that stack over time. By the time it's noticeable, it's already established. The correct resolution. The resolution is not a technique. It's a posture. You return to yourself. You stop monitoring the connection. You stop adjusting to emotional shifts. You stop managing outcomes. You lead your own emotional state. You stay warm without clinging. You stay present without chasing. You stay engaged without depending. That posture allows attraction to settle naturally. If she leans in, you meet her calmly. If she doesn't, you don't chase what isn't choosing you. Both outcomes preserve your strength. Why this creates lasting attachment. Attachment forms when a woman feels free and safe. Free from managing your emotions. Safe in your presence. That combination allows her to open without fear. Not all at once, but over time. And when that happens, attachment doesn't feel forced. It feels inevitable. The quiet shift that happens over time. Handled consistently, something changes. She relaxes more quickly. She opens more easily. She feels less guarded. Not because you demanded it, but because nothing felt risky. This is how women fall deeply. Without drama. Without confusion. The real reason this one thing is rare. Most men live externally. They regulate themselves through attention, validation, and reassurance. Very few regulate themselves internally. And women feel that difference immediately. Internal steadiness is magnetic. External dependence is draining. That's why this one thing works. Women don't fall for men who try to be everything. They fall for men who stay themselves. Even when emotions rise. This isn't about doing more. It's about becoming steady. And steadiness is what makes attraction last. If this helped you see attraction differently, let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you want calm, honest psychology that helps you move with confidence instead of confusion. And before you go, watch the next video on your screen. It breaks down what happens after attraction settles and how men unknowingly ruin it. This channel isn't about chasing women. It's about mastering yourself first.